Hey everybody, it's Daryl Lakins of Anglers All Fly Shops and Boathouse. Today we're tying the jigged hare's ear. All right, in the vise I have an X Series Umpqua 400 barbless in a size 14, and the bead is a 3.2 mil gold slotted bead. I'm going to start off with a 6/0 Nano silk, and the reason I'm doing this is I don't want to put lead wraps to build up behind and hold the bead down for extra weight. So I just basically use some heavier thread in the beginning to get things kind of locked in and settled, and I'll finish it off with the smaller thread. It doesn't take but a few turns of the 6/0 to kind of get things where I want it. A couple of whip finishes, I'll cut that out, and then I can go to the thread that I'm using for the pattern, which is going to be the 18/0 30 denier brick beige nano silk. This 30/0's really nice and flat. It's going to be laying down very, very sparse, so I'm going to do a small thread base back to the hook bend. We're going to tie in a tail. Today we're going to use the whole hair mask. We're going to kind of pull our tailing and our dubbing from the actual hair mask. So I pull all of my tailing from the cheeks here or in between the ears right there. Longer fibers, or I'm sorry, longer fur, longer hair makes for an easy management of tailing fibers. You can see what I have here. The modeling on that is just superb. Contrast of color change is what we're looking for. We're going to do the tried and true tail length of the hook shank. So right about there looks pretty darn good to me. I'm going to do the old hand switch. I am a fan of a pinch wrap in that situation. A few wraps, nice inline cinch, and I can check my tail length to make sure that I'm happy with it. Trim away the edges of my my rabbit, and do some loose spiral wraps up to my bead. And now we are ready to tie in our rib as I readjust my fly. We're going to use small gold wire. I'm going to tie this in on the hook shank closest to me. Go ahead and trap that in, slide it down, pull it back out, retrap it. There you go. These things happen. Go back to where we tied in our tail. You'll notice I didn't really clean up the fly that much after I tied in that tail, because once we dub, it'll clean itself up, and that just takes away from some unnecessary thread wraps. So now we're going to go ahead and get the dubbing we've made from our hare's mask. What I do is I take the dubbing rake, I'll rake out some dubbing from my cheeks, and then I'll go in and mix in some guard hair from the middle. And I'm just going to take that dubbing, and we're going to do a dubbing rope on our thread. And a nice, sparse, tight dubbing rope will go a far, far way for you. You don't need a ton. I'll usually put some on, and I'll end up thinning it out and almost pulling it up and down the thread just to make sure that I can see my thread through my dubbing rope to ensure that I've gone to a sparse place. Then I'm going to wrap into my starting point and then wrap forward and find a good place to stop and build my taper and get ready for our rib. So I'm going to leave this space here vacant. We have a thorax, we have rubber legs, hot spot. We'll come around 1, 2, 3, and our fourth wrap will go just in front. We're going to wrap those around each other underneath and trap that. Helicopter or cut out your wire. So next is going to be our flash. Not really flash because it's black, but it is a flashback material. It's going to be our wing back. And it has to go on top, and now that hook point is in our way. So without having to jab yourself, if you hold this on the inside of the hook shank, just pin it up against there and allow your thread tension to roll that on top. Make a couple of turns, straighten it out. I usually line up the actual wingback material with my hook point. That ensures me that I'm going straight down the barrel of that fly and I'm nice and straight. Do a test pull to make sure I've got enough wingback there. I'm going to go back a little bit more. There we go. That little bit more gives me just enough when I want to cover them. So I'm going to go back to my pile of dubbing here that I've raked out, and it's a combination of soft under fur and some guard hair. And it's a little darker, so I can have my thorax a little darker than the body. Not going to need much. I got maybe an inch and change of dubbing here. I'm going to thin that one spot out there. It was a little thick. I'm going to start behind. I'm going to build up my thorax. I'm not filling this up with dubbing. When I came back around here, it was the actual end was right there, and now it's just thread going in between. I'm going to capture my wing case, and I'm just looking to conserve some space there to make sure that I've got room to tie in my rubber legs in my hot spot. You don't want to crowd that. And instead of cutting the whole piece off, I like just putting a nick in the side and just kind of tearing it out. The tear is nice and tight. So this is going to be the end of our 30-aught, our 18-aught 30 denier. I'm going to put maybe, what, 3/4 of an inch of zap on that thread and give it a few wraps, and then a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to switch to my Semperfli Classic Waxed in orange. So we're going to perform our hot spot and the legs getting tied in with this thread. That way we just don't have to switch in between. So I've got some crusher legs here. These are the regular sized from Chicone. It's the brown and clear. I've cut them into 4ths. That way they're at a more manageable size. Same trick that I used with my Flashback. Just pin that leg, give it a couple of wraps, grab your next one, spin your vise around, line that leg up. Once you're happy with what those are, I like to give a little support underneath and give it a good cinch. And now, same thing we did before, maybe a 1/2 inch or so of a little bit of zap on our thread. And we're just going to go over those wraps, and we're going to whip finish on top of that zap. Make sure your legs are not trapped there. Guide your whip finish in. I like to finish my whip out on top where I'm going to put my wing case. That way, where I've ended my fly will be underneath a UV coating of armor. So what we're going to use for our UV is our medium flex. I dig using the flex because it's a little more durable. It's going to take some shock. I'm going to apply a dollop. Is it a dollop? A small dollop? I'll show you. Of UV on my bodkin here for our wing case. It's not going to take much. All right, just enough like that. And I can always add more. It's easier to add more than it is to take it off. So I'm just going to apply this to the top of the wing case and just over where our hot spot is. Right? I've got a nice little swollen wing case on that fly. Once we have it where we want to have it, I'm going to go ahead and keep my UV light 4 to 6 inches away, and I'm going to come in 1 inch increments until we're cooked. Notice I had no evaporation. I came in from a distance and slowly baked it or slowly cooked it out. The quicker you come in and the hotter you come in, good chance that you can trap some moisture, which will affect the durability of your fly. Pull the legs all the way up. I like cutting these right above the hook shank. It seems to be a really good distance to start with. You could always go in and trim these up to your own liking. If they don't seem to be even, I'll go in and get them to where I want them. Again, you can trim these all day and eventually they just go away. They do get smaller. So don't bang yourself up if you think that they're too long. They probably aren't. All right. So that right there is the jigged hare's ear. It's an MFC fly. And actually, outside of a regular hare ear, it's pretty straightforward. Pretty nice ties. Definitely effective. Tie some up, buy some up.